Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring why the frontier of anti-aging research has moved way past simple lifestyle advice and straight into the dangerous, absolutely thrilling territory of epigenetic reprogramming. We're talking about direct, fundamental interventions into the cellular control systems of the human body. So let's dive right in, because what we're going to look at today completely changes how we approach human longevity.
Here's the crazy paradox we're facing right now. Making cells biologically younger does not automatically create healthier organisms. It's a huge hurdle that's tripping up a lot of the current hype in the field. The central question we have to answer is this: how can humanity actually restore biological repair capacity without losing cellular identity, increasing instability, or creating wild, uncontrolled interventions? We have to figure out how to restore the body's repair systems without accidentally erasing the very identity of the cells we're trying to save. To understand longevity as a rigorous, systems-level problem, we've got a clear path for today. We'll quickly cover 1. The rejuvenation control problem. 2. Why younger isn't healthier. 3. The energetic paradigm framework. 4. Testing biological control boundaries. And finally, 5. The future of longevity.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the rejuvenation control problem, or what I really like to call the illusion of the software reset.
We need to start by dismantling a very popular but honestly pretty naive idea. The media loves to portray anti-aging as this simple code reset. You know, like just hitting Control-Alt-Delete on your body and restarting the system. But the reality? It's vastly different. Pushing a cell's regulatory state backward doesn't just neatly refresh the system. It actually creates a stacked, multi-layer biological control failure. It is incredibly complex.
Think about it like this. A therapy might look unbelievably successful at the genetic level. Maybe it makes a cell look beautifully young in a petri dish, but it can completely fail at another layer by triggering systemic instability once it's in a living organism. If you misdirect the delivery route, or if you don't perfectly control the dose timing and intensity, or if you just ignore organ specificity barriers, you are opening the door to massive, long-term systemic risks.
Which brings us right into Section 2, why younger isn't healthier, and the very real danger of uncontrolled biological activation.
There is a terrifying scientific reality here that we have to talk about. If we completely de-differentiate a cell, essentially wiping its biological slate completely clean to make it young again, we risk erasing its specific identity. It's kind of like a cellular midlife crisis, but far more dangerous. An old heart cell that forgets it's a heart cell doesn't magically become a young heart cell. It just becomes a tumor-like growth. Uncontrolled biological youthfulness can actually mimic the rapid growth and boundary violations of cancer.
Because of this, scientists try to use partial reprogramming to find a safe middle ground. But man, that creates an incredibly narrow control zone. If the intervention is too weak, you get absolutely no therapeutic effect. Too strong, you risk that identity loss or cancer. Too broad, and you introduce systemic, body-wide danger. And here's the kicker. Using ordinary AI to just blindly speed up this discovery process often leads to what's called reward hacking. The algorithms might perfectly optimize for visually youthful biomarkers in the short term while totally ignoring the deeply hidden physiological debt they are creating. AI can accelerate wrongness just as easily as it accelerates discovery.
So to stop this blind acceleration, the field desperately needs a central system architecture. That brings us to Section 3. The energetic paradigm framework.
The energetic paradigm, or EP, completely restructures anti-aging research. It takes the field away from those spectacular, isolated biological claims and forces it into a highly disciplined, top journal-grade scientific control system. Instead of looking for a magic bullet, EP treats intervention as a constrained energy flow system. We aren't just targeting one pathway. We are meticulously mapping how energy, information, and risk move through the entire biological system.
Under this core philosophy, aging is no longer just viewed as a ticking biological clock or some simple hardware decay. Instead, aging is defined as a breakdown in how the body safely allocates energy to clear damage and renew tissues. The system doesn't just get older, it fundamentally loses its ability to regulate and control its own repair mechanisms.
To fix this, the energetic paradigm introduces some absolutely crucial missing control layers. Because you can't just throw a reprogramming cocktail at a cell and hope for the best. You need strict mechanism localization, hard intervention boundaries, and built-in safety barriers. You've got to have biological feedback loops, evidence tracing, and serious claim governance to ensure we don't confuse a temporary biological activation with true, stable rejuvenation.
In practice, this creates a rigorous, step-by-step scientific architecture. It dictates exactly how a hypothesis moves from an AI lab straight through a targeted intervention, past the safety barriers, into feedback measurement, and finally all the way to validated deployment. It is a strict chain of custody for scientific truth. And I really want to focus on that last step for a second: failure memory. In a hype-driven market, companies often hide toxic signals or tumor markers just to appease their investors. But EP actually requires a failure state memory. It integrates these failures into a permanent ledger to map out the forbidden CADs and prevent reckless experimentation. Negative results aren't a PR problem here. They are a vital scientific asset that keeps the whole system safe.
Okay, let's see what this actually looks like in practice. Section 4, Testing Biological Control Boundaries, looking at some real organ-specific case studies.
Under the EP framework, we don't just broadly treat the body. We treat specific control environments. For example, the eye acts as a perfectly bounded test chamber. Because it's isolated, we can easily limit systemic spread and use inducible switches to control the intervention. The liver, however, is a totally different story. Liver interventions require a metabolic control experiment with incredibly strict monitoring just to ensure that temporary mRNA delivery doesn't trigger an uncontrolled, continuous regeneration that leads straight to fibrosis or cancer. The control mechanism literally has to match the specific risks of the organ.
These boundaries highlight a central distinction in EP. True longevity science has to aggressively separate mere age reversal from actual systemic control. Honestly, making a cell appear younger on a single biomarker is relatively easy, but it's incredibly dangerous. Keeping an intervention completely bounded while achieving a stable, low-risk, functional state, that is the real scientific breakthrough we are chasing.
Which perfectly sets up our final section, the future of longevity, and how we move from a luxury fantasy to controlled science. As we look ahead, we absolutely have to address how this powerful science scales up.
If rejuvenation therapy ends up costing millions of dollars a pop, it just becomes a dangerous elite privilege, right? That's a massive social energy cost. EP solves this deployment problem by deliberately separating the biological mechanisms from cost and access constraints. It matches specific biological architectures to their appropriate safety and cost profiles. So, expensive gene therapy? That's reserved for high-risk precision needs. mRNA? That's used for controlled, temporary signaling. And small molecules, which are super cheap to produce, are targeted for mass access, but only after organism-level safety is strictly validated. It's the difference between a multi-million-dollar bespoke prototype and a safe, mass-market reality. We have to completely abandon this sensational fountain of youth marketing. No glowing miracle bodies, no billionaire hype. We have to embrace a serious, highly constrained biological network approach. We are engineering a complex control system here. We are not brewing up a miracle cure. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The future of longevity is not simply about making cells biologically younger. It is about restoring biological function while maintaining absolute control. The race to cure aging won't be won by the loudest press release or the most dramatic animal result. It's going to be won by the research system that safely restores biological repair without ever losing control of the organism. So the real question is, as we finally unlock the fundamental code of our own biology, will we actually have the discipline to control it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.